Third lecture, types of equivalence. Lecture class plan. The first, the structural similarity of source text and target text. The second, types of equivalence. The third, phraseological equivalence. The structural similarity of source text and target text implies that relationships of equivalence are established between correlated units in the two texts. Target language units in target texts that are used to render the meaning of the respective source language units in source text can be said to substitute for the latter as their functional equivalents. Since language units are often used in their accepted meanings, many source language units have regular equivalents in target language, which are used in numerous target texts as substitutes to those units. Types of equivalence. There are 5 types of equivalence. The first, if we compare a number of target texts with their source texts, we shall discover that the degree of semantic similarity between the two texts involved in the translating process may vary. In other words, the equivalence between source text and target text may be based on the reproduction of different parts of the source contents. Accordingly, several types of translation equivalence can be distinguished. Let us first of all single out translations in which the degree of semantic similarity with source text seems to be the lowest. This type of equivalence can be illustrated by the following examples. The first, maybe there is some chemistry between us that doesn't mix. The second, a rolling stone gathers no moss. The third, that's a pretty thing to say. The second, this group of examples is similar to the first one, as the equivalence of translations here doesn't involve any parallelism of lexical or structural units. Most of the words or syntactical structures of the original have no direct correspondence in the translation. At the same time, it is obvious that there is a greater proximity of contents than in the preceding group. Besides the purport of communication, there is some additional information contained in the original that is retained. The third, in the text group of translations, the part of the contents which is to be retained is still larger. In this case, the translation retains the two preceding informative complexes as well as the method of describing the situation. In other words, it contains the same general notions as the original. This means that the translation is a semantic paraphrase of the original, preserving its basic themes and allowing their free reshuffle in the sentence. Thus, we are faced with a situation that can be explained in terms of the semantic theory. The fourth, in this group, the semantic similarity of the previous types of equivalence is reinforced by the invariant meaning of the syntactic structures in the original and the translation. In such translations, the syntactic structures can be regarded as derived from those in the original through direct or backward transformations. This includes cases when the translation makes use of similar or parallel structures. An important feature of this and the subsequent type of equivalence is that they imply the retention of the linguistic meaning. The information fixed in the substantial or structural elements of language as their plane of content. The fifth, last but not least, comes the fifth group of translations that can be discovered when we analyze their relationships with the respective originals. Here we find the maximum possible semantic similarity between texts in different languages. These translations try to retain the meaning of all the words used in the original text. Each level of equivalence is characterized by the part of information the retention of which distinguishes it from the previous level. The list of levels therefore includes: the first, the level of the purport of communication; the second, the level of situation; the third, the level of the method of description; the fourth, the level of syntactic meanings; and the last one, the level of the word semantics. The lecture is over. Thank you for your attention.